The Communications Ministry has issued a statement today saying the WhatsApp account of the Communications Minister, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, has been hacked and that someone now has some of her confidential information. Aki Anastasio is a technical expert. He joins us now. Aki, good afternoon to you. Is it really possible to hack WhatsApp?
Well, good afternoon to you, Stephen. Well, it is possible, I guess. I mean, and the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, allegedly was hacked at the beginning of the year by a Saudi prince, if you can remember. His WhatsApp account was hacked and, personal information was stolen. So I guess, based on the past and the security vulnerabilities that it's presented, yes, your account can be hacked, but yes, Facebook, which is the owner of WhatsApp, has, closed a lot of those loopholes over the last few years.
What would you actually need to do it? I mean, how would you go about doing that?
Well, look, there's various reasons. These guys use malicious code. The case of Jeff Bezos, for example, it is alleged that they used a malicious code which is embedded into a video. It was called the Pegasus attack, and it really was embedded in some kind of code because, when you're sending messages and images between two sources, it's all got to do with computer code, and the code was malicious, and the code, targeted some certain vulnerabilities within WhatsApp. Now, having said that, those kind of vulnerabilities have been patched. We don't know, we're not aware of any that are around today. But then there's the other one that you can look at the obvious stuff, Stephen, and we talk about social engineering when people pretend to be somebody that they're not. You're trying to attempt to get personal information and hence get into your WhatsApp profile. So let me give an example, for example. Let's just see how secure your WhatsApp Messenger is at the moment. So take out your phone if you don't mind on live television.
I'm a bit nervous, Aki, but I have it with me.
WhatsApp and go into your settings.
Right.
Okay.
Settings,
now,
yes.
Do you have your two-step verification turned on or off?
It's on.
It's on. Okay, that's very good because most people actually don't have it on. And this is where once you enable it, it will ask you for a 6-digit code. It will also ask you for your number to register and an email address. And this kind of verifies when somebody else tries to log into your WhatsApp account. Now, when I talk about social engineering, for example, if I go to a third party or my cellular provider and tell them that I've lost the SIM card, they will issue me with a new SIM card, and people are using various methods of social engineering to do this. And once I have that, I can actually register the WhatsApp account on my new device and have access to your messages. The other way that people are doing this, Stephen, and this is another important one that you can look into your settings. So with WhatsApp, you can have WhatsApp messages on WhatsApp web, for example. So while you've got your WhatsApp open on your phone, you can also simultaneously have it open on your computer browser, which makes it easier to use WhatsApp. Now, you need to go into your settings again, and you need to check on where it's connected. It will ask you initially, when you do set this up, to scan the QR code, which is just a code to identify your WhatsApp account, and your WhatsApp messages will appear on your browser. But on your WhatsApp app on your phone, you can check which computers are logged in to access it. So for example, if I were talking to you, Stephen, and you left your phone on a table and your phone was unlocked, for example, I could quickly take your phone, scan the QR code, have my browser open with your WhatsApp messages, you come back and the phone's still on the table and you don't know that I've actually opened up your WhatsApp on another platform.
So how would I know if you've actually done that?
Well, we don't know. And this is why with this particular story with the communications minister says her WhatsApp's been hacked, but we don't know how it's been hacked. She's claiming that personal information is being stolen, but we don't know the depth of this kind of hack and what's happened if it's on a third party, for example. But, really it's you really got to know what you're doing, and it is quite difficult to actually do that. The minister claims that only she's been using the phone, and it's only on her account, but we don't know if it might be open in another browser or if there's kind of social engineering that's been involved in any way.
And then end-to-end encryption, right? Whenever I start a new message conversation with someone, up will come this message that says end-to-end encryption is enabled. I mean, that means that no one can hack a conversation. No one would know what I said to you.
Well, that's the theory, right? But, we don't know. When you watch many of these things on Netflix and you look at the privacy on phones and you look at hacking, and if the world's richest man like Jeff Bezos can be hacked in that way, we don't know. But I guess what Facebook, who are the owners of WhatsApp, are trying to tell us is that the messages are encrypted, and they're saying nobody in between can listen in on those messages and see what you're saying. But, there are various theories underway is that, Facebook is gathering some of that information to use on their other platforms. But at the end of the day, we've got to trust what we are using. And at the end of the day, when you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right? So I guess that we can't really prove it right now, but I guess we have to trust what Facebook are telling us, that those messages are indeed encrypted.
You spoke about how Bezos was hacked, and I find this fascinating because so many of us are on groups, right? And the groups send just nonsense. I mean, utter rubbish. I mean, it's great nonsense, don't get me wrong, but there'll be a conversation about football this weekend or whatever. Someone will send through a video, you click on the video, and that's where the code comes in. I mean, is that the dangerous point?
That is a very dangerous point as well, where the code comes in. And as I said, many of these vulnerabilities, like the Pegasus voice attack, there was another one as well. It was a GIF, when you get these funny GIFs that we all make fun of and they appear on our timelines. Well, the guys put malicious code in that. So you're actually thinking you're watching a GIF, but it's downloading this malicious code onto your phone and exposing your messages and the vulnerabilities within WhatsApp. Now, a lot of these, as I said, have been patched, but with these kind of groups, you sometimes don't know the other people in the group, right? So this is where social engineering comes in, where these guys will come in and they will act like somebody else, and you think you know this person, and then they will ask you, for example, can I please have that 6-digit verification code? I can't get into my WhatsApp. Can you help me with yours, for example? And people freely give out these things sometimes. And I'm amazed, for example, the one vulnerability that I spoke about. The first thing you should be doing is check that you've got that 2-step verification. So well done to you, Stephen, for having it. But the reality is most of WhatsApp's 2.5 billion users globally don't have this enabled.
That's amazing. I mean, 2.5 billion people are using WhatsApp. I mean, I sometimes wonder what would happen if it just stopped working. I mean, I wouldn't be able to get through the day, frankly. I mean, we wouldn't be able to sort of operate. So many of us, it's what do they call it? Operational reliant. You actually need it to get through the day.
Well, absolutely. And we've seen when there have been these kind of outages, and they happen from time to time, that, people are so connected to their devices and using this as a platform to stay connected and stay, in touch with people around them, that it really puts people's lives upside down. But thankfully, we are having less and less of these attacks. If you look at, since WhatsApp began many years ago, that the frequency of the disruptions to the service have been less and less. And when there is one, it's at a shorter time period. But you're quite right. We are so reliant on the service to communicate and keep people in touch around us that as soon as it goes down, we go into panic mode. And I know for you, for example, I mean, God forbid you don't be able to watch any of those GIFs or funny stuff that you get on your phone. Your day would not be complete, right?
Well, it would mean you'd stop sending them to me, Aki. I do want to make the point that, I mean, and again, your point about, if you're not paying for it, you are the product. I mean, over 2 billion people rely on it. I rely on it. You rely on it. We're not paying for it. We have no control over it. And we trust them when they say it's end-to-end encryption. That's quite a lot of trust on our part.
Well, this is it. There's a lot of trust. And, there's been a lot of scrutiny on the doings of these big companies, because the big companies, like we know, Amazon, for example, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, these are questions that are asked all over the place across the world, where users are now saying, hang on a second, these guys, we're entrusting them with too much of our personal information. And I guess trust is a big factor over here. And the more scrutiny there is by governments, and especially European governments, into how these companies are conducting themselves, I guess the better it is for us as consumers. But nonetheless, there are terrible people out there. And, hackers, for example, during this lockdown period, since COVID has appeared, we've seen in some situations a 400% increase in malicious attacks on various different platforms. So the hackers out there, the nasty guys, are all trying to get that personal information. And that personal information is very valuable out there. Now, with regards, coming back to the minister who claims she was hacked, we don't know what information was hacked, but if she's a minister, she's got some really personal information on her device. So, do the safety things, the 2-factor authentication that we mentioned. Check what other devices are logged onto your WhatsApp account. And the third one, which is a very critical one as well, is when you go into a Wi-Fi hotspot, don't just trust any free Wi-Fi. People see free Wi-Fi, they connect automatically. You don't know what you're connecting to. It could be somebody else's hoax Wi-Fi hotspot you're connected to, and you're giving them access to your device. I never connect to public Wi-Fi networks.
Sure, that's so interesting. Okay, I think I received my first WhatsApp and got onto WhatsApp about 8 years ago. Do you think I'll still be using it in 8 years' time, or will something else come along?
Well, look, there's been other platforms that have come along. I think WhatsApp, it's all about the numbers, right? 2.5 billion people. It's going to be very difficult for a competitor to get to that kind of level. But, you know, there's other apps that are out there, like Telegram, for example, who their selling point, the unique selling point is that they offer more secure encryption to particular messages. And, for example, if I send you an image and you download it, it will tell me that, hey, Stephen downloaded the image you sent him, and it was meant to be private. So, you know, there are different platforms. There are other platforms out there. Whether or not we trust them or not is a different story, but it's going to be difficult for another platform to gain that amount of users in such a short space of time. But then again, you know, once you break that trust, and this is why I come back to what you said earlier about the trust, if you break the trust with your customers, then those customers are going to go elsewhere. And I think Facebook, the owners of WhatsApp, are acutely aware of this, and they can't risk breaking the trust of their users.
Aki, Anastasia, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.